So in the last video I went through the talents that look favourable at the moment for single target. So what I'm going to do now is go through some actual gameplay and give my thoughts on how it seems to feel. Just a little warning, the next video clip is a bit of a spoiler showing you how to get the Ashbringer, so turn off now if you don't want to see that. I mean, one thing to note straight away is with execution sentence, it can be easy, it certainly was for me, to just go, oh, execution sentence does the same thing and use it in the same way. But what you notice, if you don't read the tooltip too carefully when you start using it, is it has a very short cooldown. In fact, the cooldown is equal to the duration. So it's, as things stand at the moment, it's something to keep up all the time. Now, execution, of course, you can fire off straight away. I mean, it's a ranged ability. But then what you really want to be doing is going in with judgment. Now, when you're just taking on mobs one at a time like this, it would be natural to do that. But maybe when you switch into another one, you want to be using judgment as soon as you can. Because, of course, of the debuff that it gives to your damage. And you also especially want to, if you can, I mean, this will come more easily when you're more easily able to track the debuff. When it's about to wear out and you've got 3 holy power, maybe you're thinking, well, use a holy power builder. Well, actually, no, use the finisher because it does more damage. I mean, what would you rather? Crusader Strike getting that last second of the debuff, or the Templar's Verdict, which does a lot more damage. So, yeah, there's going to have to... it's just a different priority system. We'll get used to it. It's no problem. Quite like the animation on this Blade of Justice. All got shades of the Reign of Chaos, hasn't it? Waking up the druids in the den. The druids of Claw. Do like that animation. Oh, I can teleport him behind me. Ah, let's just stun him. There. So the cooldown's going down. Ah, I'll do it now. Let's just use a Divine Storm. I think realistically you'll always be able to use that every 30 seconds if you needed to, if in combat. I'm quite pleased at the moment that I chose Virtue's Blade, because I don't find myself with too much downtime actually now that you've got all the talents in there. So let's have a look. Yeah, it's reasonably busy. It's actually not that bad, is it? Not that bad.
I need to get closer.
This slightly shorter range on various things takes a lot of getting used to, you know. Now this is an interesting point. At this point, you've certainly used this, of course, like this. But if I'd have used Blade of Justice, say, I'd be wasting holy power. This is the problem that I sort of had when you heard about this. Because it generates 2 holy power, you have to be very careful if you're on 4 holy power not to use it. Use a spender, then Blade of Justice. But it's just be something to get used to, won't it? Ah, I ain't got anything to remove poison anymore. Oh no. I have been stripped of all my stuff. Let's use this. AoE from the Ashbringer. Oh. Hand of Freedom. That'll sort it. Notice we haven't got... We've only got Hand of Freedom for the movement impairing effects now.
Too far away.
Poisoned again. Bloody hell.
I need to get closer.
The other curious thing is these lighting up when you've got enough holy power to use them. Yes, so need to bear this one in mind. So when you use Crusader Strike or Blade of Justice, 20% chance to cause the next holy power spender to cost one less holy power. So a case of using that. It's just another thing to track, of course. Really annoying. Oh, I don't need that anymore. Right, I've just got to rescue this pillock, and then we're nearly done here. So just have to bear in mind when it's lighting up like that, that's when we're getting our conviction procs. Means the holy power spender costs one less. Now I'm wasting it at the moment. Oh no. Oh, bugger it. Not at all keen on this random generation of holy power though. Oh! I was clicking for divine protection, but I don't have divine protection anymore. Got that, use that. So now this is a sensible point, I think, to go and upgrade the Ashbringer. We should have enough stuff to get me some artifact power and get myself started on that. I mean, just like with the followers on short duration missions in WoD, you don't want to be coming back here all the time. I don't need to be in there, do I? I need to be here. Oh, it does it all in one go. That's good. That's handy. Stops you doing it one at a time. Just do the old stack. Let's have a look. Oh, I've got a little toy there somehow on my travels. Right. Have we got any other things? I'm certain I've got... There we go. Anything else? I think that's it. How much artifact power is that? Give me 135. Ooh, is that enough? Might not be enough. Oh, it is. It is. 100 artifact power for the first thing. Now, sort of mentioning this before, but it's fairly important that you don't just look at these and decide which one might be better for you. You might look at this and go, okay, well, you know, this does more than twice as much damage as a judgment, doesn't it? Oh, actually, it's also difficult to say with Holy. So you might go, okay, well, better to do Blade of Justice. And I'm not using Divine Storm much, so no point in that. But you need to be looking at where you're heading. Certainly at the moment, it would be suggestive that although you can reset to start again, you're losing a lot of artifact power to do it. I would take... This is very early days yet, it's not even beta. But I would take the view that Blizzard do not want us resetting this. They want us to follow a path and then just get enough artifact power eventually to get everything. So it's worth thinking about where do you want to head to first of all. Increasing the duration of Avenging Wrath sounds tasty to me, so that would imply going along here. What would this one be like? Healing from your Divine Storm. Bleh. Bleh. But if I went this path, where do I go? Forbearance no longer applies. Do I really care? I mean, you could look at it. You could do the old style thing of Blessing of... If against something that's hitting you with physical attacks, of course, you can use Blessing of Protection on yourself for 10 seconds. You can Divine Storm for 8 seconds. You've got 18 seconds of immunity against physical attacks if you didn't have Forbearance in a row. How often do you actually need that? Not very often. So I'm not that bothered about that. Damage of Crusader Strike. This is still tastier. Damage reduction, well, you can't knock that. And then at the end, I'm not keen on this mimic aspect of it, actually. Ashburn causes your Divine Storm to quickly move 10 yards. I'm not keen on that either. Well, I don't know. We'll have to see how that works. And then if you go this way, you could still eventually go there, but damage a Templar's Verdict. See, to get to here, you could take either this or this. It would take just as long, because you've still got to go through this, haven't you, to get here. So that's either of those two. But I'm not that bothered about that. I mean, yeah, but reduction. I'm going to go for this one, because even though if I was to choose between these two, I might say this one to begin with. I just think I'd like to go there. It may be the option to go there first as well. So I'm going to go for that. That's my decision making. I'm not saying that's the right thing, but that's what I'm thinking in terms of. So in summary, I would say at the moment with single target, it's not one with a lot of downtime, certainly. There's stuff that's going to need to be tracked. There are a lot of things that need to be tracked. You're going to have to track execution centres, because 10-second cooldown does 10 seconds. It sort of does what it does at the moment, less damage of course, but it's the ticking up thing. So you want it to be on for full duration to do most of its damage, because it's got that final burst at the end. But then you want to keep refreshing it, don't you? It actually looks like it's quite busy. So where was I? This Blade of Wrath, of course, with the half the cooldown of this, I'm thinking maybe not now, because I did look at it at first and thought, well, there's a reasonable amount of downtime in all this. I'm not so sure there is. So this might purely come down to a decision of, do you want the holy damage against high armoured targets? The other thing we're going to need to definitely keep an eye on are... Oh dear, wrong button. Where am I, idiot? The conviction procs, because when you don't want to waste these ideally. Also, you want to make sure that with Blade of Justice, because I'm using just the standard Blade of Justice, albeit buffed, that because it generates 2 holy power, I have to be very careful if I'm storing up my holy power. If I've got 4 holy power and just want a 5th and use that, of course I am wasting it. So there's a few things to be mindful of. Another thing, which I probably didn't mention when I was, but I was very conscious of the fact when I was doing other things. Don't know where that's from. Is with the Judgment debuff, of course, it's not up for very long. It's up for 6 seconds. So you could think to yourself, you know, you use your Judgment, doesn't generate holy power. Use your Blade of Justice, 2. Use a Crusader Strike. So now you've got 3. Now you can use this. But we're used to the idea of maybe trying to keep using holy power generators while we can until we get 5 sometimes. But in actual fact, if your debuff, I'm not even sure what it's called actually, but the Judgment debuff is going to wear off, you actually do want to fire off your Templar's Verdict, just because it does such a large amount of damage. And you don't want to be wasting what is, at the moment, I think I've got the Judgments of the Bold. So that's doing, it is reflected in the tooltip, sorry, 40% increased damage. So what do you want that 40% increased damage on? Another Crusader Strike for like just under 15k damage, and physical damage at that, albeit buffed by Mastery. Or do you want it on the 51k holy damage, which is also buffed by Mastery? Obviously you want it on the Templar's Verdict. So that again needs tracking. So what I'm going to try and do is tell me when I'll work on this in the next few days. I'm still going to have a potter about. I'm not desperately needing it now for leveling, do I? But that is what I'm going to be thinking in terms of the things that need tracking. You've got to track that debuff, and you've got to be thinking. You can't get your mind into like a rotation type thing easily, because you've got to think about, if there's only a couple of seconds left on it, what do I need to be using? I need to be using Templar's Verdict. And again, keep an eye on the conviction procs, and keeping an eye on your holy power, especially if you're going to be using Blade of Justice in the form I'm using it in at the moment, where it generates those 2 holy power. So that's what I'm making of single target at the moment. In a few days I'm going to be having a look at some more AoE type situations and what sort of talents I might use for those and how effective they are. And until then, I'll see you later.